I suffer from a series of professional deformations. And the first one is perhaps that when I see a title with the word "and," I'm always drawn to the signified but unspecified relationship in that word. The second one is that, for better or for worse, I have to start with some kind of material reality. Now, I said before, I teach in the Department of Sociology at Binghamton. My office is on the 4th floor of the library tower. It is not in Science 2 or Science 1 or Science 4, etc. Now that to me is a very material reality. The third deformation that I suffer from is that I have to see these realities as historically constructed. So that's where I'm going to start with whatever I can add to this discussion. But for me, the university it's not a unitary or structurally unchanging entity. That the university structures that we live with today are an outcome of a series of 19th century debates. In England, those debates took the form of the debate over order and anarchy. They were eminently political in nature. They had to do with who had a political voice and whose voice was going to have any kind of social weight. In the Germanys, it had to do with debates over the Methodenstreit. How do you make legitimate knowledge? How do you make knowledge that others will believe to be authoritative? Out of those debates grew the disciplines. The discipline of sociology did not exist. The discipline of political science did not exist. I would have had an office in the Department of Philosophy, maybe if the philosophers would have accepted me. But all of our PhDs in social science simply did not exist at the time. That is a long story. It's the story of professional journals. It's the story of library classification systems. It's the story of grounding specific areas of expertise and knowledge construction and drawing boundaries around those areas. We take them for granted today. They were not always so. We live now in a world of 3 super disciplines: the sciences, the social sciences, and the humanities. Which brings me finally to the small point I want to make, which is that values, the way I think of the question on the table today is in terms of values. Values are differently construed within the disciplines. In the humanities, values are accepted as belonging specifically to the disciplines. If you are you're in creative writing, is that right?
Yeah.
Creative writers don't exclude values or ethics or morals from their work, I don't think. And you certainly don't exclude it in literary criticism. In the social sciences, the huge debate was what to do about values in the sense of bias, in the sense of interest. And social scientists over the past 100 years or so have been trying to figure out how to get values out of the discipline. And they've done that in a number of ways, by being more quantitative, by using comparative methods. Weber argues that it's all right to develop the questions that one is going to research based on value sets, that the researcher may have a personal set of values, that will then lead to asking certain kinds of questions. But once the question is set, then the research itself has to be value neutral or value free. Scientists generally think that research should be value neutral or value free. Something very interesting is happening, I think, in the structure of the disciplines today, that there are two emerging fields that are going against this trend. And one is at the interface between the humanities and the social sciences. Is called cultural studies. And values are being infiltrated into the social sciences through cultural studies. The other is at the interface, and I use that term guardedly, sitting beside David here, between the sciences and the social sciences, and it's called complexity studies, which originated in the sciences and the mathematics, and basically says that only a limited set of natural systems offer the possibility of long-term predictability, and that indeed very simple systems can rapidly become totally unpredictable in their evolution. This has enormous impact on the social sciences, because if I can't say anything about the future, what am I doing? If I can't make a prediction, therefore, what can I do as a social scientist? And the answer that I have to that question is that I can think in terms of possible futures, possible trajectories. But thinking in terms of possible trajectories, if I'm going to think in terms of possible future trajectories, then I must leave out Weber's criteria for doing social research, that it be unbiased. Because possible trajectories depend on the kinds of value sets that upon which people base their decision making. If I'm going to research possible trajectories, then values have to be a part of the research itself. Not just my own personal values, ethics, or morals are in play, but the values, ethics, and morals of social decision making, which will determine the possible, not the impossible, determine the difference between the possible trajectories and the impossible trajectories of the futures. Not the utopias, but what can actually structurally be thought about as a future possibility. So I think that that the question of values in the university context, for those of us who say we're about creating some kind of social knowledge, is not only possible today, I think Stephen said necessary, I think it's imperative for those of us who work as knowledge producers to include values in our actual research, not only as a part of our own existential being. Thank you.
So could I just add something to that, because I have to go? Because I really enjoyed those comments a lot. And to me, what they raise is the point that I would have made myself if I'd thought of it, is this distinction between factual knowledge and a value system that can use factual knowledge. And what you said makes me want to stress that one imperative for, especially in a university, is to generate and protect trustworthy knowledge, basically, facts about the world that we can stand on. And then that knowledge becomes available for making value judgments. But the problem is that one of the greatest enemies of factual knowledge is values, because when you're threatened, when you want to create a value system, one way to do it is to distort the facts of the world on behalf of your value system. That's the problem with religion, and it's the problem with many other belief systems, intellectual, scientific, and otherwise. So it's paradoxical. We need good facts interpreted by good value systems, but part of what we need in order to implement that is to protect those facts from value systems, because they'll always be ready to corrode facts on behalf of the value system.